Okay, we recently put out an article in the magazine asking people to go to their MPs and do exactly that. The calls we got back in were no MPs were responding, and all they were responding saying, yes, that would be nice, make a note in the diary, and then the meeting would be cancelled. And this is not all of them, but we haven't had one that has come back to us and responded to this. The parents are trying over here, but there is something that's stopping them getting any further. And it's not just politicians, it's the doctors. When you were speaking the other day about, when I asked you the question about what a young mother does when he wants to go and vaccinate their child, and you said, well, they need to sit down and talk to their GP about tests they can do. That isn't going to happen in the National Health Service with a GP. The GPs will say, there is no evidence that autism is connected with anything. That's what they say, that's what they'll tell you, and they'll tell the mother to go away. Unless you go privately and you get someone who will do it for money, you are not going to, on the National Health Service, get a GP that's going to do that. That's a fact.
Well, I believe you, and a lot of parents had to have a good laugh when the CDC, the Centers for Disease Control, said that the vaccine schedule in America is flexible and people should talk to their doctor if they want to slow things down or spread things out, because a lot of American parents have the same experience. The pediatrician basically scoffs at them and often kicks them out of practice. If you don't want to do it my way, go find another doctor is the message, but not all. And I think pediatricians are even starting to come about. Look, we vaccinate for MMR at 18 months of age. So that child goes unprotected for the first 18 months of life. Measles, of the three, measles is by far the most serious, I think, for a child that age. So what is the problem if you vaccinate the child for measles monovalent, one shot, at 18 months, and then you come back at 19 months and get the mumps, and then come back at 20 months and get the rubella? Do we really think that in those 2-month window, this child is going to be exposed to mumps or rubella when they've already gone 18 months without protection? I don't understand why waiting a couple more months to complete the series, if that's going to encourage parents to bring in their children for immunization rather than scaring them off.
But if we were to be really honest, this is a money issue, isn't it? It's cheaper to put out the MMR vaccine than it is to do the single ones. Cheaper on time, everything.
I suppose so. Interestingly, in my country, it would be the opposite because doctors get paid per visit.
Okay, that's our system versus yours.
That's our system. And drug companies make more selling 3 shots than 1 shot. So everybody stands to make more money if you spread out the
Our
shots.
doctors actually get a bonus if they sell so many.
Yeah, I think that happens in our country as well. But listen, you make it optional. A vast majority of parents would still get the MMR shot because it's convenient, because they're not afraid, because they think their child's healthy, for whatever reason. But parents who were concerned enough, or parents who felt like there was some evidence of immune problems or mitochondrial problems or other problems whereby that child might not or might have a bad reaction to a triple live virus vaccine, again, if it's going to encourage vaccination, why would the government be opposed to that? And if I could just get back to your statement about members of parliament not meeting with constituents, what does that say for democracy when you elect someone to represent you in government and they refuse to meet with you because they don't believe in what you're saying? I find that...
I think that a lot of these MPs don't actually understand what autism is about, and they think that we're hysterical mothers that are going to scream at them for damaging our children.
Polly, you're not hysterical, you're not screaming.
If they gave us a little bit of credit, a lot of these mothers would want to sit down and just ask. They're happy to tell them what autism is. They just want them to listen to them, and they're worried about their children's future actually at the moment, more than they are what damage did. Sure. What is going to happen to all these children when they grow up?
Sure.
That's more on their agenda at the moment. But these people won't even talk to us because they are worried about us screaming and kicking and saying damage to our child is MMR damage.
You are really up against a wall in this country, I'm afraid to say.
Yeah, and do you think the GMC hearings helped?
No, I know for a fact they've heard.
He's been used as an example to what happens to other people if you speak up about autism.
Yes, and I was also told by a health producer at a major outlet in the United Kingdom that the reason they weren't going to cover my visit was precisely because of the GMC hearing, and they were worried that if they presented any reporting on this, that it would be seen as trying to influence the outcome of the trial, and therefore covering me would be seen as bias, I suppose, towards Andy Wakefield.
And anyone who doesn't know you, you haven't got a child with autism, you're not a scientist, or you are a journalist, and you are simply reporting on your findings.
I'm not on a crusade. When I go home at night, I turn autism off. I don't think about vaccines, trust me.
So,
I have my own life. I have my own world that has nothing to do with autism and nothing to do with vaccines.
So they shouldn't be frightened of coming to listen to you and hearing what you've got to say?
Yeah, they shouldn't. I think people who came to my lecture the other night realized that I have a very open mind on this.
Very fair.
Try to present both sides. There are two sides. Look, every good story has two sides. Otherwise, it's not worth writing about. So, if I truly thought this, there are two sides, and that's what makes it so compelling and so interesting. But I think that there's more and more evidence to implicate. And again, and this is what I said both at Parliament and in my speech. I think that in the United States we have been too fixated on thimerosal. We had blinders on, and we were just looking at, but the model didn't work. You couldn't blame all autism on thimerosal. I think in this country it's been too fixated on MMR. And I think the opposition has been too fixated on vaccines in general, when we really need to look at the whole universe of things that are happening to our children, in addition to the genetic predispositions. So there are plenty of children out there who have autism that was probably not caused by their vaccines, or maybe the vaccines may have played a very minor role. But the frustrating thing is, I set out to find out what's making these children so sick. My goal was never to finger vaccines. My goal was never to blame mercury. And trust me, it would have been a lot more fun and a lot easier if the theory had been baby food, or cough syrup, or diapers, or some other infant product that we use. But it's not, it's vaccines. And because it's vaccines, all the alarm bells go up, all of the defenses go up. And the problem is when we start talking about environmental contamination, for example, mercury coming out of coal-fired power plants, and there are now 3 studies to show an association between that type of pollution and autism, people get up in arms over that too. Because mercury in vaccines doesn't exonerate, mercury in the air doesn't exonerate vaccines. It actually could further implicate vaccines because they also contain mercury. So there's this effort to not even look at mercury, even if it's coming from coal.